Hello, hello, everybody. Pop culture curator here. So good to see you. And I wanted to first of all start off by saying I know I've been a little under weather lately, and we've missed the last few Gilligan's Island streams, and I feel really bad about that. So I'm hoping to get us back in on a regular basis every Wednesday now. No more delays. We're gonna pick up right where we left off. We're getting near the end of the second season, and we have two good episodes tonight. I did put a poll in the chat to allow you to vote. So if you get a chance to vote, you can either vote for which is your favorite episode and or which you think or what you think about the stream, how well you think we handled the stream. And I'd like to start off first of all by saying hello to my good friend and co-panelist, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. The kid's
Nice.
getting close to his goal on his popcorn sales. So
Oh, very cool. What's the goal?
1910.
What does 1910 mean? $19.10? The
Well,
year 1910?
Cub Scouts was founded in 1910. So
Oh, that's close.
they want the kids' goals to be 1,910 points.
Per
Basically,
kid?
yeah.
Oh, okay. And he's making that much. All right. Give
He's
him
about
props.
200. He's about 200 points away from it.
No, that's very cool. That means he'll definitely probably do it before the end of the month, right?
Well, we got 2 weeks left of popcorn sales.
Or 2 weeks.
But he's averaging 400 points a night.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, he's one of the few kids going door to door.
See, he's actually working for it, and he deserves those medals.
Yeah.
What do they get? Do they get any sort of reward, maybe like a party or a camping trip or anything?
They got a trip to the Wild Zone.
Wild Zone. What is that?
It's basically they got like laser tags and arcades games and everything in there.
Oh, I bet you they love that sort of thing.
Oh yeah. Then if he's in the top 25 for Southern Minnesota, you got a bunch of prizes for those kids. But that's gonna be kind of hard with beating out some of these bigger towns, especially the towns that have bigger apartment complexes than the people that live in our town.
Right, or like I mentioned in previous streams, those people that hang outside grocery stores, because that's not fair. Because a lot of times, the only time they do that is the parent doesn't want to go through the effort of helping the kid. So they just say, "Oh, I don't want to drive around and wait for you to go door to door. I haven't got time for that crap. We'll just go to the grocery store and just hang outside the grocery store for a couple hours and get our quota."
Yeah, I've been working with them, going door to door to door, with a few select targeted ones.
Well,
People I know very well. I know the guarantee that they'd buy from him.
very cool. Well, if you were closer, I'd buy some too.
Well, I could mail it.
You can mail it, huh? Well, how would I pay?
I got a credit option on there, but it's one of those. It's one of those. He's getting very close to it. We're doing pretty good. Looks like there's a few we might have left over, so I'm gonna have a sit there and push the s'mores ones.
Well, is there any way that tonight before the stream is over, you can do some screenshots and show us what they look like?
Oh, well, they're all out in the car and stuff.
Well, it doesn't have to be tonight. Maybe the next stream. Maybe
on the rumblings.
Yeah, if you can make it on the rumblings, because maybe we could try to get some people here to buy some. I would be willing to buy some.
Yeah.
If you accept like a credit card or PayPal or something, I would do it.
Yeah. I just don't know what the shipping laws are like.
You mean because it's food?
Yeah.
Maybe I would have to buy the uncooked popcorn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just. But anyhow, let's get this going here.
Yes, sir.
Late.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We're back, like I said, with 2 more episodes of Gilligan's Island. We're going to pick up right where we left off. Tonight we have Season 2, Episode 21, Gilligan's Living Doll. And this episode premiered on Thursday, February 10th, 1966. I wasn't quite 2 years old yet, but I was about a year and a half, I guess. My birthday was May of that year. And let me get ready to share my screen here. And by the way, I usually do read from the book of Gilligan's Island by Sherwood Schwartz. But I know we're running a little late tonight, so I'll hold off on that.
Go
I will
for it. Go
for
for it.
next week. Well,
I'll
I
go
didn't get a
for it.
chance to even. I usually go through a chapter and pick it out what I'm going to read, and I didn't get a chance to
Okay.
do that. I got home too late.
Okay.
I had to go get some groceries, unfortunately. So Gilligan's Living Doll, and the description reads: the castaways try to find a way to get a robot who has landed on the island to provide them with their rescue. Now, remember, everybody, this is a comedy, so don't expect a lot of realism when it comes to the robot department. But I do like the way they handled it. All right, here we go. Ba-ba-ba-ba. And as the usual disclaimer that I usually give before our streams start is we have to show the slides. I can't show video clips because I have to be careful that I don't get a warning or a strike or anything from CBS, which they tend to do. They've got itchy fingers, unfortunately. And the slides are going to be like every 3 or 4 seconds, between 3 and 5 seconds. So this is a comedy, obviously. So unfortunately, we're going to miss a lot of the jokes. So I do recommend you do watch this personally yourself.
All right.
Because
And welcome, Herc 130.
hello, Herc. Let me
He
get those
says, "Hey
subtitles
guys."
ready to go.
And PvP, welcome. He says, "Hi guys, just making tea and resting a bit. I'll only be on and off tonight. Still cleaning for apartment inspection tomorrow. Oh, fun.
Yeah, I know it.
I'm glad I don't have to deal with that. One of my Facebook friends, he moved in on October 1st. October 2nd, he got hit with an HOA violation.
Wait, a house or apartment?
He had a house. He bought a house there, and he ended up getting HOA with it.
Right.
And
What was the complaint filed for?
weeds.
Oh, see, that's why I would never, ever buy a house that has an HOA even within miles of it, because you're asking for trouble. You
Yeah.
might as well be living on the let's just say the other side of the Berlin Wall during World War II.
Well, with it, I was very tempted, but knowing Facebook and Facebook can't decipher jokes, I was tempted to just go, "Well, shotgun should take care of that problem."
Oh no, oh no! What I would do is I would just say, "Oh, you don't like the weeds?" Then I would just I would burn, let's just say, some very nasty words in the lawn, and
Oh, I had there's some guy, he got in an argument with his neighbor, so he did the he wrote "Go fuck yourself" and "weed killer."
that's what
In
I'm
his
talking
neighbor's
about.
yard.
The neighbor's yard.
Yeah. And Herc says, "Hey PvP," and Nemesis says, "Pop it in to say hi and leave a like. Hope you guys are doing well, Pop Girl." Well, thanks for stopping in, Nemesis.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nemesis. Thank you.
PvP says hi, Herc. Herc says hello, Nemesis. HOA get stuck on an electric pole.
I don't understand why people sign up for those. I don't get it. You know, it's like what I was saying. I don't understand why people pay to wait in line and get their stuff searched at Costco. It's the same thing when anybody buys a house with an HOA. I don't understand it. You're asking for trouble. You're paying for it. You're paying those people's salary to give you trouble. I don't get it. I would never do it myself personally. So it looks like we have Gilligan and Skipper doing the laundry. Actually, Skipper's just kicking back and watching Gilligan do all the work.
Yeah, well, he's bitching and moaning how he should be the one giving orders and it's a woman's job. Now, you know why they call it an old wives' tale?
Where is that?
Because it's usually old wives that tell them.
Well, yeah. Well, it's based on when they say old wives' tale. It's like almost like saying when the old wives used to sit around and gossip.
Yeah.
And they would just talk about anything, and so that's
Yeah.
that's where the old term "old wives' tale" comes from.
And welcome, Suzanne.
Hello, Suzanne. So good to see you. Hope you're doing well tonight.
Yeah. And Herc says, "I call them Lotsies. I hate HOAs." Oh, yeah, I'm glad I don't have an HOA. Yeah, she's saying hi to everybody. Everybody's saying hi to each other.
Well, that's great. Looks like we're gonna have a good turnout tonight.
Yeah.
And Skipper's telling Gilligan to get back to pedaling, and Gilligan's looking up at the sky and says he sees a man in a parachute.
Yeah.
So of course, immediately they figure they're rescued.
Yeah, that was stock footage.
Yes. Oh, always stock footage.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty good at pointing out. He's checking out stock footage.
Right, you can tell when the film stock changes. Like right there, you can tell that doesn't quite look like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where you'll get to where you'll be able to notice stock footage easier. All right, so what we have here is whoever that was with the parachute. They've assumed that his net has now landed on the island. So now everybody's out searching for this parachuter.
You know, it's kind of amazing. They're out on a remote island in the largest ocean. There, lots of water, very scattered land, because they always get a bunch of people landing on the island there.
Of course, I know, right? Always keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
And Gilligan is too busy reading his comic book.
Yeah, I can't remember quite which issue it was.
Tried and true Betty tied to be railroad tracks. Sounds more like a conglomerate of a bunch of different kinds of comic books. And here we have Gilligan walking past the new visitor on the island of the week. And he runs right into the parachute.
It must be awfully comfortable being the person that's inside that thing.
Oh, it could be comfortable or uncomfortable. Usually they're uncomfortable because they're kind of hot, not a lot of air. But that suit looks like it's relatively serviceable. Even today, that would make a pretty good Halloween costume, I guess. I'm the Tin Fugitive from the Wizard of Oz. So here comes the professor. And here's where the professor points out that some robots have been programmed to talk. And of course, Skipper has no faith in it. He's saying it's a refugee from the junkyard. And the robots start to repeat what they say. The skipper has lost all his marbles. Why, it must have a blank roll of tape, says the professor. Remember, everybody, tape, analog. This is before digital.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I'll have a question way later in the thing. And hey, scurvy.
Hey, Lemon Pie. Good to see you. Glad you could join us. I'm so glad to finally get back to doing Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, and everybody's saying hi to each other again.
Very cool.
Hey, it's Dream About Elements is actually working for once.
All right. Let me know if you guys see the link for Suzanne's fundraiser, everybody. She really needs some help. She's a very sweet person and very deserving of it. Please help her in any way you can.
Yeah.
So here's the professor. The skipper pretty much is blowing off the robot like it's really nothing a big deal. But the professor reminds him that they send it up and they'll come looking for it. Obviously, if it's a military piece of equipment, it's very expensive. And now Skipper starts to understand. The robot, you're beautiful. Oops, sneeze. Oh, I've been doing a lot of sneezing tonight. Okay. So Gilligan commands the robot to walk, which it does, but it picks him up at the same time. And it looks like the professor is programming it. And Gilligan's asking him, why doesn't it ask him those questions about sports, scores, and things like that? And Professor's telling him that he wants more informative answers.
Yeah. And Suzanne says, "You're such a dear soul, Pop. Thank you."
It's my pleasure, Suzanne. My pleasure. Glad to see you. Raise your left arm. Now here's where the professor's giving the robot some basic commands. And of course, the first thing they do is they want them to do all the unpleasant tasks on the island. Even the laundry, says Gilligan. And he says, twirl your right arm. This mechanical marvel can be taught to do everything a man can do. And then we got a transition to the girls' hut. And it looks like Marianne's teaching the robot how to sweep. Back and forth, back and forth. I can't read all the text, everybody, by the way. That's why I'll leave it
Yeah.
on for a few seconds because I've been warned by CBS before whenever I try reading all the text.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question here. Why do they even bother sweeping the huts there when it's a bunch of sand?
Yeah, I agree because you can even look at it and see the sand. Maybe it's to
Well,
keep
yeah.
it level.
Well, even then you could just do that with your feet, but like I
Right.
can understand if they had wood floors, but it's like, come on, you're just sweeping sand.
Yep. Really
All
not
right.
much purpose in that.
Yeah, here's the gift and go to help Suzanne.
Thank you for putting that up there, Lum Pie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, then Suzanne says, "Scurvy, my hero," with a heart. And PvP here says, "LOL, the B9 on Lost in Space has nothing to worry about from this clunking junk pile." Yeah,
And Marianne tells it to stop, and of course it keeps on walking and knocks down the wall of the hut.
yeah, very strong walls there. If they took out what 2 support beams.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And and they also established that the robot lifted Gilligan up, so it's supposedly relatively strong. And now we have Ginger supervising the robot as it washes dishes. And of course, it's not good enough. She's going to complain that it's not moving fast enough. And she says, "Are you going to take all day?" And she starts fooling around with the knobs. Which one of these makes you go faster? And if she does that, the robot does start going too fast and throwing the dishes, of course.
I tried doing that once, but boss about walked my ass out.
Yeah, I can see a boss not really liking that too well. And here's where Skipper introduces the robot to their crudely made wash machine. And he's explaining to the robot how to wash dishes, how to wash clothing. And he tells the robot to get aboard and start pedaling.
I will change this scene up just slightly.
Well, what I thought about watching this is look at the seat. So I guess apparently the robot can't get on. They had because there was a seat when Gilligan was on there at the beginning of the episode, and
Yeah.
apparently they had to remove that for the robot to sit on there, and that doesn't look very comfortable.
Yeah, I'm biting my tongue. But I really want to make a comment right now, but it's not appropriate. But no, what I would have done is just had that whole thing collapse on them, so then they'd have to fix it because they put like the heavy robot on it.
Yeah, you figure that robot would be too heavy.
Yeah, I would have just had that whole thing just fall apart, and then they'd be all upset that the washing machine got smashed to bits.
Yes. So apparently they removed the seat so that it made it easier for the robot to get on and off. Because as we see, the robot's not exactly doing a sitting position, so it's pedaling standing up. Skipper seems to be very happy. And Gilligan's wondering what happened to his lucky rabbit's foot. And as you can tell, the skipper doesn't seem to care too much about the rabbit's foot. And while the robot is doing laundry, Mr. Howell calls it over because he has chores for it to do. Mr. Howell, come back here with that robot. So they're fighting over the robot. Gilligan's checking out the laundry. No, Mrs. Howell is waiting at the first tee. So Mr. Howell, of course, wants to golf, and he wants the robot there as a caddy. And the robot walks over to help Gilligan with the laundry, and unfortunately pushes Gilligan into the laundry machine.
No,
And
you
continues
didn't think you went to help Gilligan with laundry. You went to go finish laundry.
or finish, right? And he saw Gilligan sticking out,
Well,
and I guess the robot thought it was laundry, so that's why he pushed it in.
did we skip over the part where he told Mrs. Howell where to shoot the ball?
No, they haven't got to that point yet.
Oh, I thought maybe we missed it.
There's Gilligan in the wash machine. Here we go.
I wonder how long they had him sit in there, because I wonder if they had to film it kind of like the Black Lagoon scenes where it was every 2 minutes they had to bring him up.
You mean how long he was underwater?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Howell says, "Oh, darling, my ball is in your line."
Yeah.
I'd better mark it. And here we brought this up in the prior episodes where they somehow have grass on the island, across the grain downhill right off the palm tree. Play it 3 feet to the right of the hole. So the robot is telling them exactly what's going to happen with the plays. And with those directions, she'll knock it right off the island, says Mr. Howell. And as you can see, we have another magnet scene where we have the magnet under the artificial turf. And that's how they're able to get the joke and the gag.
Yeah, I noticed that.
There's a very interesting new problem coming on the radio, says the professor. Listen to this, everybody. And the announcer, of course, happens to be talking about the robot, which you would think would be top secret. But apparently, here's where they discover that they don't say which government agency, but we're assuming it's NASA, was flying a drone over the island and dropped the robot. Accidentally ejected the robot XR-1000. Go ahead.
I was thinking Black Ops to use against the Soviets.
Well, but then they wouldn't have mentioned it on the radio. That's why I'm thinking maybe NASA. Because if it's something NASA would do, that's a little more in the public eye. But if it's a black program, black government, they're not going to mention it on the radio at all. And here's another thing that's interesting too, since they mentioned since the plane was operated by remote control. So this is kind of foretelling here because they're mentioning that the plane was a drone, and they didn't have drones back in the 60s, and now we have them all over the place. They've announced that a search for the robot would be neither economical nor successful. And we thought that robot was going to get us rescued, says Professor Gilligan. For goodness sakes, robots don't think. They only do what you tell them to. And then that's what gives the professor the idea that he could rescue us. And they decide to start questioning the robot. And what they're going to do is see if they can equip the robot to perhaps. I think the first step is like the particular problem posed will be answered is with a demonstration. I'll help you get him up. Then they realize they're trying to lift him and he's too heavy. So they tell him to stand up, which he does. And they ask him if maybe they get the idea that the robot could build a boat. And they figure that's a wonderful idea. If any of its spools will get an answer. So he's talking about the audio. And he says, can you build a boat? And the robot says, yes, I can. And they ask, well, how long will it take you to build this boat? And the robot replies, 17 hours and 4 minutes. Well, that means we can be aboard. All right. What's that?
A Vulcan is more precise than that.
I know you would think, right?
Yeah. All right. We got a few chats here.
Thank you.
All right. PvP says, does the robot fall in love with the washing machine and fly away with it in a flying saucer?
Yeah, I know, right?
And PvP says, must have been hot under studio lights in the robot suit. Yeah, I was already asking about that earlier. And welcome, Oiler Greg. Oh, welcome. He says, danger, danger. Arms waving wildly.
Good to see you, Oiler Greg.
Yeah. Yeah, PvP says, the government agency of cheap-looking robots would be my guess. And welcome to the Phantom Boomer. Welcome, Boomer.
Hello, Phantom Boomer.
And Oiler Greg says possibly a cover story for a Black Ops. Yeah, but yeah.
Very possible.
And it could just put the story out there about the robot in case it fell in the Soviet hands to throw them off. And Scurvy here saying hi to everybody. Spool fancy electronics.
Yeah, the old tape spool.
Pop culture curator with a bunch of explanation points.
Well, thank you.
Oiler Greg says Soviet spacemen stole a washing machine.
That's right.
And Boomer here is going to survive the AI apocalypse because he's saying hi to the stream elements.
I'm glad the stream elements is working tonight.
Yeah. All right, that's everything. Everybody's just saying hi to everybody here.
All right, very cool. So the professor instructs the robot, build us a boat and start at once. And that, gentleman, is that. And the robot takes off. And unfortunately, with 1,000 pounds, it accidentally steps on Skipper's foot. And he
I wish
tells
my
Gilligan,
could take that pressure.
yeah, I know, right? Especially, I know the shoes that Skipper's wearing. I'm wearing those exact same shoes right now, and there's definitely no protection. Bon voyage, first night out, and all that sort of thing. So everybody's all ready. They are all packed, got their bags ready, and here they are at the lagoon. Everyone's excited to see the boat. Maybe he built us. They said they don't see the boat. And Gilligan said maybe he built us a submarine.
I don't know how I would like being in a submarine.
I think I can handle it, but you definitely cannot have claustrophobia because that is a horrible way to die if you sink down to the bottom.
And tell people they better not be eating no baked beans. I'll tell you that.
Right? Definitely no beans, right? And you better get along with everybody. Everybody better get along with each other. Same thing on
Well,
the space station. Same thing on the space station. I would figure, right? No beans.
well, that's when they make them sit there in the suit and go for a spacewalk.
I was reading an article how salt and pepper are not allowed on the space station because they can't take a chance of them
Well, that
escaping and floating around. So they have to. They have it in a paste form.
yeah, because those fine particles could do hazards on the uh, on the on the electronics, just like why you can't. They're not allowed pencils on the space station. Because
Yep.
we were always given a bunch of crap that NASA built, spent $6 billion developing a pen that could write in space, and the astronaut or the Soviets just used a pencil. But they said, "Oh, the graphite can break off, go into the electronics, and cause a fire." Okay,
Yes.
I'll give you that one.
So they said, but you did not. The robot says, but you did not ask for a submarine. And Gilligan goes to look for the boat. I'm gonna try to catch this here. I don't think he built the thing, says the skipper. I'm going to speak to the head of your union.
Yeah,
Of course, Mr. Howell's always very formal about it.
yeah. You don't want fringe benefits, no more health insurance. And something about bolts and nuts.
Did you build us a boat? And asked the professor. And the robot says, yes. It's in the lagoon. You're not looking in the right place. Well, I'm sorry. It's the only lagoon we have. I found it. I found it. Yes, yells Gilligan.
Now,
So
I gotta say, that is one beautiful model.
it is a very nice boat. I mean, that's why it's fitting that Gilligan really likes it. Now, the rest of the castaways, of course, they're not very happy. They wanted a boat that they all could get on and sail away with, but no.
Now, do we ever get to see that thing again?
Not that I know of. Not in this episode.
Yeah.
But Gilligan's decided he doesn't care. I should have specified the size and the type of vessel, says the professor. Well, it's not too late, says Mr. Howell. Perhaps he can build us a bigger ship. Can you build us a larger boat? The professor asks. And the robot responds, I have been programmed to build a carrier, a destroyer.
See,
And then
that's
Mr. Howell, go ahead.
see that line right there made me think it had to do something with the military, maybe DARPA or even could have been like a funded project for the Pentagon.
Very possible.
Because
And
if
you would
he's
think,
being able to build ships and all that, that's military.
yes. And of course, Mr. Howell says, well, we might as well go first class. Build us a carrier. And the robot starts listing off all the items he's going to need to build an aircraft carrier. 412,000 tons of steel, 7,000 tons. Perhaps if you said pretty please, says Mr. Howell. And the professor says, we're going to have to concentrate on some other device. It's obvious the robot can't build a ship without steel. Well, better break the bad news to the girls. You goofed, didn't you, says Mr. Howell. For that information, I wonder what next year's models are going to look like, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And Gilligan's playing with the boat. And he tells the robot, confide with him, I think you did a swell job. And now we have later on in the Howell hut, and they're trying to figure out what to do. So they're brainstorming. This robot can get us off the island. If he were human, I'd offer him more money.
Mm.
Thurston, I have the most marvelous idea, she says. And he says, what's that? She says, a plan, darling. Well, come on, let's not keep the robot waiting. Here you are, my dear. And she asks, Mr. Robot, are you awake? And he tells her the robot doesn't sleep. Oh, yes, of course. We'd like to leave the island. That information, darling, the idea, he says. Oh, yes, of course. A bridge to Hawaii. She asks the robot if he can build a bridge to Hawaii. It will take approximately 89 years and 4 months, says the robot. Guess you'll be a little old to walk to Hawaii. Oh dear, I thought it was such a good plan. And Mr. Howell suddenly has an idea. Eureka, I have it.
Yeah, a lighthouse. They want a lighthouse.
Yes, he
But
said so. Go ahead.
well, they don't have like flashlights or the stuff to make mirrors and all that other stuff. So
Well, they can do the sand if they can heat it up. And they can make mirrors, but they're going to need a lot of power.
yeah, and we got a few chats here.
Thank you.
Yeah, Boomer singing "Hey Phantom Lemon" and the rest. There, PvP says 1,000 pounds pressure on his foot. The day captain was fitted for a peg leg. Yeah. All right. And PvP here says they didn't specify a scale, so that's the robot's fault. Nope.
Nope,
Then
that's true.
Scurvy here, Scurvy's asking, can this robot make eggnog? PvP says a carrier or destroyer. Where would they find the materials on the island? Oh, they can. Maybe the professor can whip something up.
I don't know about the tons of steel, though.
Yeah. PvP says if the robot could make eggnog, he'd at least be good for something.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, we're all caught up.
I think eggnog's a fairly simple recipe, too. Eggs, milk, pumpkin pie spice, stuff like that. So the robot's letting them know that there's no way of building batteries. It would take enormous power for the lighthouse, and there's no carbon to build the batteries. Of course, now they don't make batteries out of carbon anymore. Now it's lithium.
No, if they really wanted to make carbon, all they'd have to do is go to the natural gas spring and burn off the natural gas.
Yeah, they could do that at nighttime. So Mr. Howell joking says not even two friendly fireflies rubbing their little feet together. Oh, Ginger, I think the plan is impossible. Why? A girl can get a man. I know, but robots aren't human. Well, neither were some of the guys I went out with, she says. And Marianne says, but the professor says that robots can't do any original thinking, which is still true. They're just as smart as a programmer. Same with computers. But AIs are getting there. They're starting to do original thinking, unfortunately. She's going to try to attract the robot with her wily ways. Hiya, tall, dark, and mechanical. And of course, the robot replies, I do not understand. See, for a long time, understand? So she's saying they've been on the long island for a long time. And I want you to get me off, she says.
I'm surprised that line flew on fast as that.
I know, right? I know that's a loaded line. But notice that the robot responds, I am not programmed for that task. So it almost does answer the joke.
Yeah, I am surprised that flew, that got past the sensors.
Well, and of course she's a little frustrated, but she says, can't you put your mind to it? Concentrate for Ginger, can you? Just think of what it would mean for me to be back in Hollywood. Are the robots going to know what any of that means? If you get me back to Hollywood, I'll introduce you to the swinginest lady robot for Ginger. Huh? And of course, please, she says. And of course, that's too much for the robot to handle. And we get a tilt symbol inside the window, which is a harken back for us older people. That's what a pinball game we used to do when you would shake it too much. So that means almost like danger, danger. Similar to like danger, like Captain Kirk would always uh, convince robots and androids into killing themselves. But I guess the danger is too much for the robot. I think you're beginning to register, she says. And Gilligan, that's one of the silliest ideas I've ever heard, says the skipper. And Gilligan says, I thought it was pretty good myself. To build a radio station out of bamboo and coconuts, says the skipper. Well, maybe he could swim to Hawaii, says Gilligan. Gilligan, if he could swim, for goodness sakes, we could program to tell the authorities all about us. Oh, that's the silliest thing I have ever heard for. Well, you did it again. So he realizes that's a great idea. Well, if we can get it to swim to Hawaii, yeah, if we can solve the other problem, one other problem, where are we going to find a bathing suit? Yeah, a bathing suit, big bathing suit. So try this robot. So we have Gilligan trying to teach the robot how to swim, which I don't think is going to be very successful. There's no way that robot's going to float.
Yeah.
How about the butterfly stroke?
You gotta try.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to try. The arms won't move over the head, so no chance on the butterfly stroke. How about the side stroke? You know, like that. But I don't think the robot's able to do that either. And Gilligan once again bringing up his rabbit foot. I just dropped my rabbit's foot out of my pocket. And yet, Professor says, Gilligan, you don't not to pay any attention to those superstitions. Luck, Gilligan, it's all in the mind. Professor, with my mind, I need all the luck I can get.
Mm-hmm.
And how's it going? Says the skipper. The robot just isn't built for swimming. What do you mean, crawl? He has to swim to Hawaii. Very funny, Gilligan. His arms and legs simply don't have the mobility of a man. Well, neither does a dog, and they can swim, says Gilligan. Dog paddle, that's it, says the professor. But I think his arms and legs can't make those motions. Get on there and show him how to dog paddle. Robot like this. So there he is. Look at that. Isn't that marvelous? So they figured out a way to get the robot to swim. I know it's early, but in case this fails, how can they be disappointed?
Yeah.
Don't bother to explain it, Professor. All right, here goes for a trial run. Go out 20 yards and return, says the professor. And there goes a robot out into the lagoon. Swim, robot, swim. And of course he sunk. Well, it's his weight. He displays enough water to keep himself afloat. Maybe he's too heavy, says the skipper. Of all the silly ideas. Swimming to Hawaii. And of course, as you can see, the professor is frustrated. Stop. Let's try that message we gave him. See if it works right.
That reminds me of those little flowers there that people go smell and they squirt in the face.
Yes. Watertight. I have been on a deserted island. The robot starts to play the recording that they programmed in it. I have been on a deserted island with 7 castaways. They are alive and well. And Professor turns it off and says, perfect. Now all we have to do, and well, back to the drawing board, as they say.
You think that as fast as they could do dishes and all that they could have them built a really big raft, like a raft big enough to float away, and just tell them to start pedaling towards Hawaii. Now that they can pedal as fast as
strap some bamboos. Yeah, strap some bamboo poles together, maybe.
Yeah.
There's just no way to get him to swim, says the professor. You could have walked to Hawaii, says Gilligan. Walked. Well, they figured that's a great idea, but it seems to be our only hope. Well, the whole idea is preposterous, says Mrs. Howell. I figure it should take him roughly 111 hours, says the skipper.
So you're saying that robot would be walking 60 miles an hour per hour underwater.
Well, honestly, I think it would sink in the mud. And it's not like there's obstacles along the way, like rocks and holes and all that other kind of stuff. I have a feeling it would probably get caught up like in seaweed,
Not
or it would
well,
sink
no.
in the mud.
Well, the mud possibly, but you'd probably have enough force to get it out. But they say 111 miles per hour. That we know the approximate location
No,
there.
no, no. He didn't say 111 miles per hour. He says he figures it would
No,
take
100.
111 hours to get there.
Yeah, so you'd have to be going like 60 miles an hour just to reach Hawaii in 111 hours.
I don't know if they've ever established how far the island is from Hawaii.
They said approximately 100. I thought.
Oh, well, that's possible. And Mrs. Howell says, "Well, how could he ever find Hawaii without ever seeing it?" And then the professor says, "It will stay on the direction it's been programmed to follow." Well, what about the valleys and the mountains underwater? So they do at least bring that topic up. Well, it has sonar to avoid undersea obstacles, says the professor, and an automatic pilot to get it back on course. It has no human emotions, Gilligan. Here, by golly, sounds like our answer to Lloyd Bridges. I have to explain this for the younger people out there. This is the 1960s, 1966 to be exact. And at the time, there was a very popular show on the air called Sea Hunt, starring Lloyd Bridges. So that's what he's joking about here. So if you weren't around like us old folks, it's probably not going to make much sense. However, I must remind you, of course, they're not. I'm sorry, I apologize, everybody. We're skipping some of the text because we have to go every 3 to 5 seconds and blow up or get tangled up in a fishing net. So they are talking about the obstacles underneath. So far, it's from certain. So it's far from certain that we'll reach Hawaii, but he's not going anywhere if we don't get him started, says the skipper. Right, robot, walk. So they instruct the robot to head to Hawaii. Everyone's singing Aloha. And off to Hawaii goes the robot. And we have them sitting around listening to the radio. And the announcer says, and now they're activating the robot's receptor spools. See if they can find out how it got to Hawaii. The next voice you hear will be that of the robot. And the robot's voice, I have been on a deserted island. It was a lucky shot. Sweet back and forth. I was stranded. This is the way we watch our clothes.
Yeah.
The scientists from the laboratory are checking to see exactly what went wrong. The recorded messages are all scrambled. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, a rabbit's foot was just found in the robot. It demagnetized the entire receptor spools.
Now,
And
do you
Gilligan,
want to explain that? Because I didn't quite get how you could demagnetize film.
well, you can actually, but a rabbit's foot wouldn't do it. You know what a VHS tape is, right?
Yeah, I got tons of them.
All right, if you take a magnet and you wave it over it, it's going to erase those tapes. Because the way tapes are designed, the spools like they're talking about here, cassette tapes, reel to reel, VHS, all those tapes, the way they're designed, the way you get sound and or picture on them is there's very, very small lead particles that are aligned in certain patterns. So basically, when they record a movie to a VHS tape, it's aligning all the patterns, the lead on that into a certain pattern, which replicates the signal and the sound for the television. Yeah. And if you wave a magnet over it, it basically distorts and moves all the lead around. So when you pop that tape in, it's going to look like snow.
Oh, I didn't know lead was magnetic.
Yes. Also, another thing too, I know this is a little late to the party, but back in the days when VHS was popular, a lot of people that I knew, in fact, it was a common thing for people to do. This is when they had those CRT, the big heavy televisions, which would put off magnetic signals. But a lot of people didn't know that when they had VHS tapes, they would put them on top of their televisions, and then they would be up there, and then a little while later they'd go to watch them, and they get nothing but a bunch of snow, and they're like, "Well, we don't know what's going on with our tapes; they're all erased." And I had to tell him, I said, you don't want to put them on top of the television or next to it or even near it. If you've got VHS tapes, keep them a distance away from it. Radio Shack used to sell what they call demagnetizer. And what it was is it would kind of look like like an iron you iron your clothes with, but it was like a brick shape. It wasn't heavy as a brick, but it was a brick shape with a handle on it. And you plug it in, and you just wave it over anything that's tape, and it would descramble and erase it. And it was used to erase tapes in bulk. So, like if I had a bunch of cassette tapes or a bunch of VHS tapes and I wanted to erase them, I just buy a demagnetizer from Radio Shack, which is basically an electromagnet, and just wave it over the tapes and it would erase them. It would scramble the lid on there and erase them. So sorry for being off topic, everybody. But
No,
that's one of the reasons why we went to digital and got rid of analog.
well, that's just explaining something that I didn't quite get what's going on in the episode right there.
Which and I'm glad you asked it, is because it was a very good question, and it gave me the opportunity to explain it for people that are younger that have not been around since then.
Yeah, because I didn't know what like my VHSs are coded pain, and I'm on the edge of at the end of the VH era for my lifetime.
Well, here's a couple things you want to know. This is for you, Gorilla, or anybody else out there. If you do have a collection of VHS tapes, keep them away from the television. Anything that can put up electromagnetic signal, even the new televisions, I still wouldn't trust them. They should not put up electromagnetic signal like the old CRT televisions. But CRT means cathode ray tube, by the way. So what you want to do if you have a videotape collection, you want them to be standing up on their sides. You don't want them laying down flat. So you want to store them on their sides like you would a library, like you would the books. You wouldn't lay them down flat. You want them on their sides. Keep them away from the television. And also, if you've got videotapes that have been sitting for a while, do not just pop them into a VHS player and push play. If you do that, you can guarantee that that machine's going to eat them up. Because what happens is if videotapes have been sitting a long time, the tape tends to stick to itself. And what that's going to do, that's going to cause the machine to eat it. And then when you pull the tape out, you're going to see all the tape stuck inside the machine, and they're saying goodbye to your VHS tape. So the point is, if you have a VHS collection, which you need to do every now and then, I would say at least once every 3 to 5 months, is you want to pop them into your player and push fast forward all the way to the end. And you want to fast forward the tape all the way to the very end, and then push stop, and then rewind it back to the very beginning of the tape. Then it'll be safe to play. And it's called exercising your tapes. If you don't do that, they will get eaten inside the player. Almost 100% chance they will be eaten. That goes the same for cassette tapes, 8-track tapes. Well, I'm really dating myself now. Cassette, 8-track, and VHS. So remember, if you've got a collection, every 3 to 5 months, take them all out and just one by one, just fast forward all the way to do not push play. Pop them in and push fast forward all the way to the very end and rewind back to the beginning. And then you can push play and enjoy your videotape without it getting eaten in the machine. Sorry about that tangent, everybody. But yeah, if you want your VHS tapes to last, remember that exercise them on a regular basis. Consider it like a muscle. So, and now here's what they're saying that and that's what brings me up. A lucky rabbit's foot, I cannot see demagnetizing tapes because there's no magnet in there. Honestly, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever seen a rabbit's foot, but it's basically just a foot, and it's got a stainless steel chain on it, and like a little cap on the foot where the bone would be, where it was amputated. There's no magnet in them. So if anything, what they should have said maybe was that the rabbit foot got in there and scratched up the tape, or somehow damaged the tape and caused it to break. Is what they should have said. But there's not a lot of people that knew about demagnetizing back then, unless you were a technician. So now back to what the announcers saying on the radio. There's no way of knowing where the robot has been, who reprogrammed it, or how it got to Hawaii, says the announcer. And of course, everybody's upset at Gilligan, and they says, or they don't, and continue with what the announcer is saying. Also, they don't know how the rabbit foot got in there in the first place. And then everyone says Gilligan at the same time. And Gilligan says, I just thought it might bring us some luck, So he put it in the robot intentionally for luck. And we get our closing theme. and they're there for a long, long time, as we all know. By the way, everybody, this is like I said earlier. We're nearing the end of the second season, and after we do that, we're going to cover the third season, and then after we're done with the third season, we're going to cover the Gilligan's Island movies. I
Okay.
believe there was three of them, and any behind the scenes videos of those. So we've got a lot of material to share about Gilligan's Island. Still
All
up and
right.
coming.
Um, I'll catch up on Trevor again in the next episode.
Thank you.
PvP says Gilligan pedaling to his death on the bike to power that lighthouse. Well, they had. I remember. I remember they had an episode where Gilligan ate like some phosphorus stuff, and he started
Yes.
glowing, and they turned him into a lighthouse.
Yes, they did. Right. It was paint that he ate, and it made him glow. And they had him right. That was one of the previous episodes we covered. So that was a good point too.
Yeah, and Scurvy here says Ginger has no shame. Nope.
Now, when it comes to getting out that island,
Yeah, and Boomer here says the robot comes with a variety of attachments.
that's one way of putting it.
Yes, attachments. Run, Forrest, run! And Oiler says cheers. We're all caught up.
Thank you. So next, everybody, we're going to cover an episode from season 2, episode 22, Forward March, which premiered Thursday, February 17th of 1966. And the description is as follows. The castaways form a military unit led by Mr. Howell when an unidentified enemy begins attacking them with hand grenades. Okay, so we got our usual opening credits here and introduction to our cast. Oops, we get those subtitles. Can't forget the subtitles.
Get right back and hear a tale of
And
a trip that started
there
from
we
this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing and the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers sailed that day for a 3-hour tour. That's about as much as I better sing.
I know,
I'm
it's
a
sad.
crappy singer.
It's sad. I wish we could play it.
Because this is one of the most iconic theme songs of any show.
It is, and it's sad that when you think about it, TV shows now don't have them at all. They pretty much abandoned them, and it's terrible. There's just no originality or imagination anymore. The biggest disgrace is Hawaii Five-O. The show Hawaii Five-O used to have one of the best, like Mission Impossible. It used to have one of the best intro music by a band called the Ventures. And they remade Hawaii Five-O horribly, and they butchered that song down to about 10 seconds. And I remember my sister was watching it, and I when I visited her, and I was like, "What is this?" "Oh yeah, that's the new Hawaii Five-O." And I said, "Well, the way they butchered that song, they should have just left it out altogether. What a disgrace." And we have Gilligan chilling out on the lagoon, where you can really see the LA smog that day. If you look past to the other side of the lagoon, now remember the lagoon's not that big. So that's not haze from distance, that's the smog. Because around the other side of that lagoon there was the LA freeway. And Gilligan skipping rocks.
Yeah, I didn't think they had that much of smog problem back then.
Actually, what they did was they had lots of smog, more smog then than they do now. And it really got really bad in the 70s and 80s. That's the only thing good about the environmentalists. Environmentalists are usually cuckoo or nuts. But the one thing that people did realize back in the 70s, if you watch any movies or TV shows, I mean, it looked like every day was like a foggy day. It was really bad. And then that's when they removed lead from cars. And that's why all the cars now, when you go to get gas, it says unleaded. Because back then we had regular gas and ethyl. That was the two brands that were out, regular and ethyl. And once they removed lead from gasoline, that brought down a lot of the emissions. And then that's also when California came out with this smog equipment on cars. So, which is basically like a filter, like on a cigarette. So they got rid of lead and gas, and they invented the smog system on cars. And between those two, they cleared up the air. So now when you drive into LA and Hollywood or anywhere that area, there is actually clearer than it was back in the 60s and 70s. And Skipper's dreaming about steak, rare with onions and fried potatoes. Oh, hello, Gilligan. Don't you like bananas and coconuts anymore? Says Gilligan. Gilligan, I'm sick of bananas and coconuts. In reality,
I would,
you probably have diarrhea all the time if that's all you're eating. And Gilligan offers him a banana. He says, Gilligan, I told you I wanted something different. What's that? What's that, Gorilla?
oh, I forgot what I was gonna say.
That's okay. It'll come to mind.
Oh well, if their stomach, that's all they're eating. Their stomachs would eventually get used to it.
Well, they would, but you would still lament, a good steak. Yeah, I admit, because they've been on the island at this point going on almost 2 years. And yes, you would get used to what's on the island, but you would still lament and talk about, oh, I miss having ice cream, I miss having steak, I miss having chocolate. I'm sure people would still do that. Like a steak or lamb chops, continues the skipper, or fresh celery and carrots and avocados. You got an avocado? One just flew over me and landed in the bushes, says Gilligan. One just flew over and landed in the bushes? Oops, let's get out of here. The skipper, it's hard to catch it with the slides, but I'm going to see if I can catch it.
Just play it. There.
And it's a hand grenade. And the skipper immediately recognizes it and says, let's get out of here. And as they run, it explodes.
All right. In all seriousness, kids, don't play with hand grenades because in all reality, they'd be dead because the explosions, that's what's dangerous with hand grenades. It's what they project.
Right. Which is called shrapnel.
Yeah.
So they're designed, right, to bust apart with a bunch of thousands of little tiny pieces. And they're just not fun. And they're not like portrayed in the movies where, like they just, they step 10 feet away from it and everybody's safe. No, they're very, very dangerous. And apparently they found most of the fragments here. There's a grenade, all right. And they almost got me and Gilligan with it. The question is, who were they, says the professor. Maybe they're trying to attract our attention, says Gilligan. Gilligan, you don't throw grenades to attract attention. No, you throw grenades in order to kill other people. Exactly. I mean, if you want to attract somebody's attention, you tap them on the shoulder and say hi. You're right. It's a good way to attract attention, says the professor. We're trying to think this thing out, says the skipper. Skipper, it could have been lodged in a tree. No, Professor, it came flying through the air. The hand grenade knocked us down to our knees. And Gilligan keeps throwing out silly ideas, and Skipper is frustrated, so he says, Gilligan, that is enough of that. You be quiet right here. The important thing is motive. I say the important thing is they're trying to figure out a plan of action. Gilligan tells Mr. Howell. And Mr. Howell comes in and says, sorry, I'm late, gentlemen. Please, Mr. Howell, we're trying to think this thing out. And Mr. Howell says, I demand immediate and unconditional surrender, of course. Oh, but we don't know who or how many, says the skipper. I don't mean them, I mean us. Carrying a white flag. But give up without defending ourselves? Well, nobody's pushing me around, says the skipper. Well, whoever they are, skipper, they've got hand grenades. A better part of valor. Discretion is always a better part of valor, says Mr. Howell. Well, I forgot all about them. So they're talking about the women. What are they going to do about the women? But if it means that maybe the women will get hurt, I guess your white flag is the answer. Gilligan's not happy because they're ignoring him. I've been having second thoughts, said the professor. What happens if they don't honor the white flag? They kill the man who's carrying the flag. That your idea is no good. You were the one who was talking about unconditional surrender. We've got to concentrate on another scheme. What are Mr. Howell's good shirts, she says. Cross dollar bills on a field of Swiss banks. Like that's really going to, like the enemy's going to understand what any of that means. You ought to take those
I didn't
cufflinks.
even understand what it meant.
Swiss bank. Apparently she's hinting that they've got the money hiding in a Swiss bank, which people still do. Oh, Gilligan, one mustn't talk of money. No, it's neatness that counts. Now, French cuffs flapping in the breeze, where she doesn't have quite the idea with how to surrender. And here comes Ginger, usually, as usual, dressed all nice and everything. Ginger, this is neither the time nor the place for a woman. Ooh, yeah, you can't say that anymore. Yeah, that doesn't age well. Oops. But she reminds me, oh, forget that, I'm a woman. Well, but we appreciate the fact, Ginger. Now remember, everybody, as a reminder and as an historical fact, we had many, many women spies. And that's what Ginger is explaining to them now. Well, but we appreciate the fact, Ginger. You are a very brave girl, but this situation is just too dangerous. I suppose that I walk up to the enemy like this, and I put my arms around them like this, softly, and I whisper into his ear like this. Come on, baby, surrender to Ginger. Unfortunately, you're not one of the enemy, says Mr. Howell. We'd have more problems than we have right now. But that is basically what some women did as spies. They would lure men in and get the whatever the information they needed. And some of them would assassinate. Well, at least I can carry the surrender flag, she says. I'm very good at that. Watch. Nothing doing, says Mr. Howell. No one will pay any attention to the flag. Surrender and be back on time for lunch. Hey, Gilligan, come over here. So here's the flag that they put together. Where do you think you're going? And he says, down to the lagoon to surrender. From you guys, you said that was the plan. Well, Gilligan, we've changed our minds now, says Skipper. And absolutely ruined my shirt, says Mr. Howell. Well, don't worry about his shirt. And since we don't know the nature of the enemy, says the professor, you mean he might think I'm drying my laundry? And start tossing grenades at me like that one? And we get another grenade go off? Hey, that was a narrow escape. Yes, your cufflinks are still alive, says Gilligan. And here's where we get our first drawing of the island. So we're nearing the end of our second season, and this is the first time we get a perspective of what the island looks like from a distance. So we're assuming that the castaways have mapped the entire island at this point, caves and all. Now, gentlemen, we must find some way, and the key word is organization. Unfortunately, they're all arguing. As commanding general of our armed forces, and Skipper interrupts Mr. Howell and says, I'm Skipper around here. And he says, well, you're in charge of the Navy. And he says, this is dry land. And the skipper says, dry land or wet land. I am in charge. Says who, Mr. Howell? Says Mr. Howell. Gentlemen, as the professor breaks up the argument. Skipper, let Mr. Howell play his war games. We've got more important things to do. Exactly. You're right, Professor. All right, we need to find out our enemy's strength, where he's dug in. So now they decide to search the island and find out where the enemy is who's tossing the grenades. And Professor says, I'll take this half. And you take the other half, and we'll meet back here. And Mr. Howell says, Professor, as commanding general, well, thank you very much, General. And Skipper, in spite of your insurgent attitude. Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Mr. Howell. Of course, I remember, everybody, I'm not getting all the text because we're having to skip. I apologize for that. I hate to ruin the jokes. That's why I highly recommend you watch this on your own. It's a very funny show. And Mr. Howell tells Gilligan, I have big plans for you, without whom no army could function. Of course not. Private Gilligan. And he sets him off marching. Hut, 2, 3, 4. And by the way, everybody, they don't say hut in the military. They might say hut inside of a hut, but they don't say hut. That's something that only a civilian would do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, how sweet. They set up an infirmary.
Right, isn't that nice? It's actually
Yeah.
a nice looking bed there.
Yeah, Mary Ann has some nice legs going right there. Tell
Yes, she
you
does.
what.
And the ladies want to play doctor even though they have no experience in the medical industry. Well, I don't know anything about it either, Mrs. Howell, but your hospital sure looks very good to me. And of course, somehow out of the blue, Mr. Howell has this military uniform.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing that's one of his ceremonial, like, for the yacht club or something.
Maybe they found it in that uh, chest that had all the costumes in it from that one episode.
Maybe.
And now he reminds them when your superior officer enters the room, you mean you're superior to me? Lovey, that's just say that I outrank you. Good for you, Mrs. Howell. Right, rooting for the woman. There you go, Marianne. The functions of a whack officer, he reminds them, which is a female. And she starts to read it off. So they can maybe free to fight. So they can leave the males to be free to fight. And
Yeah.
also KP, laundry details, says Mr.
Yeah.
Howell.
All right, we got a couple chats here. PvP says, I was offline for about 10 minutes, darn internet. Well, that's your Canadian for you.
Yeah, set it up
Yeah.
on speed at
Oil Greg's
1.5.
laughing. He says, the French national flag. Oh, I can't believe I didn't make that joke. I can't believe I did not make that joke. I am slacking tonight.
Slacking.
Yeah.
Slacker.
I had to sneak that one in there. And it says Marianne Doev doesn't need experience. She'll learn quickly.
Absolutely. But I did that when I was a civilian, says Marianne. If you have any complaints, put them in writing, he says. Of course, the old line, meaning no, you will get no support. All right, Captain, aren't you forgetting something? Oh, goodbye. Lovey, she was supposed to salute me. That's what he mentioned about when he came in. And a superior officer enters the room, you're supposed to salute. I hated that when I was in the military because the way regulation is, if a superior officer enters the premises, everybody salutes who's below that officer. So, for example, if it's a general and they walk in the room, everybody that's below a general salutes the general. Now, that's okay. That's fine and dandy. That's a great way of showing respect. But the problem is that they get really big-headed and conceited when they get up there as captains and generals. So they don't return the favor. They're supposed to, by regulation, when everybody salutes them, they're supposed to salute back. I rarely ever saw a general salute back. And it was very disgraceful. And it was not good for morale. They would just like buzz you off like you're nothing. And like they're rich or something and you're just a peasant. And I'll never forget that. It was, like I said, it was very bad for morale. And we all found it very disrespectful. But anyway, that's another story for another time. Lovey, she was supposed to salute me. Oh, Thurston, don't carry on so, she says. Don't say this is a war thing. This is not a game. I'm inspecting a base hospital. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, poof,
I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Very taut. Very military. So he's talking about the blankets on the bed. When you're having an inspection in the military, the old trope goes that they should be able to bounce a coin off the bed. You should have it so tucked in, so tight that they could toss like a penny or a dime and it should bounce on it. Bottle of iodine, bottle of aspirin, but bottle of scotch to sterilize wounds and things. Can we use a cheaper brand with soda? Of course. USO reporting for duty, sir. Marianne, ginger looking beautiful as ever. You are the only one aware of military protocols, says Mr. Howell, and you are to entertain the troops. I shall not fail in my duty, sir, she says. Very well, tonight treat them to a show, he says. Good heavens, nurse. And now they're doing practicing on bows and arrows. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, guys, hit the wrong button. Ah, this is what I get for controlling everything with a keyboard. I'll get us caught up. Let's see
Holy
how
crap!
far
We went
we're.
that fast. We went oh, the wrong episode.
Yes, it is. My stupid fat fingers hit the wrong button. Okay, here we go. I'll get us caught up really quick. There we go. All right.
All right. So, and PvP says the internet used to be reliable. Then Rogers Cable took over Shaw about 3 months before. Had about 6 outages. Oh, that sucks.
It does. Things are supposed to get better when companies merge, not worse. But unfortunately, we all know the truth and the reality of the situation. Oops. I got to open up my subtitles again because of that little boo boo. There we go. That's enough, Gilligan. So apparently their target practice isn't going so well. And Mr. Howell says, well, it's obvious as commanding general. Well, it's very plain. So they begin arguing again, and they have retreated. So they're assuming that whoever the enemy is who's been throwing the grenades have retreated. Personally, I don't care. Why? Well, when General Howell speaks, and then suddenly they hear machine gun fire.
Now, I've never understood why people always decide to hide behind wood. I would have
Oh,
scattered.
well,
I would have
you
scattered.
yeah. What's worse is I've seen many TV shows and movies where they hide behind bushes like hedges, and then when the gun goes off, you can actually hear ricocheting, and that's like an old thing that I always bugs me every time. You can hear bullets ricocheting off bushes. I'm not kidding. I wish I was.
I mean, granted, it's supposed to be a comedy and all that, but they could have done some stuff a little bit differently, and still got made it funny.
Yes. So we're assuming that whoever that was shooting the gun apparently is not a very good shot, I guess. And now they realize whoever it is has a machine gun too. I don't know, but they could have picked us off. I can, as you can see, Mr. Howell is still on the ground. I can't see anything. Yes, that is unless you're frozen down here. No, I'm listening for the sound of approaching horses, he says. A trick I learned from General Custer. Come on, Skipper, let's take a look around.
Didn't Custer die at Bull Run like 60 years ago?
No, a lot longer than that. And he was generally regarded as a coward and a failure.
I don't know about coward, but he was a failure.
Yes. And we're talking about Civil War.
No, he
That was Civil War.
died 1876 at Bighorn. He's the dumbass that took 200 cavalrymen up against about 3,000 natives there. Then he got his whole unit slaughtered, except for like one.
Gotcha.
They left one to tell the story.
Well, if that's the year that you're saying, that was during the Civil War, wasn't it?
No, Civil War was 61 to 65. 76 was the Indian Wars in the Midwest when we were expanding out further west. Like
yes, there was a lot of territory wars between the Indians and the Americans, I guess you could say, and also between the, Mexico and the Americans.
Yeah, I think Bighorn was Montana, if I can remember correctly.
Very possible. I'll stay here and dig a slip trench, as Mr. Howell, like it's World War One. Oh, Marianne, look, our first patient. Mrs. Howell's all excited because he has a little scratch, and he says that's just because I was running. I always sound that this way. Oh, it looks serious, very serious, says Mrs. Howell. General Howell stuck me with his tie pin. Oh, how thoughtful of him, says Mrs. Howell. And he's like, huh, wait. Now you are a good little soldier boy. Stick out your tongue. I think we should put it back where it belongs. Oh, it looks awful. We'll tell you what you need, soldier. Now lie down. Oh, you're not nervous, are you? Well, I'll get you something to relax you. Do you want to call for the USO? She says. Just in time, you're going to Ginger. And you just entertain this poor little soldier boy, she says. Well, we go get the bandages ready. So Ginger starts singing. It had to be you and nobody else but you, of course. I wandered around, I fooled around somebody who. I'm not going to sing because I sound like crap,
Yeah.
especially compared to Ginger.
Yeah, we got the old seductive dance and everything.
I can think of worse ways to go. They always did. That's one thing. Is Tina Louise had a good voice, and they did show it off whenever they had a chance. So I'm really happy for that. And I want to mention too that on the other hand, Marianne had a terrible, horrible voice, and she knew it, and all the castaways knew it. I mean, they loved her; they were all like family, but everyone knew Marianne cannot sing. So in the episodes where you do see her singing, they had a stand-in, somebody else doing the voice. She's tone deaf. That's what it was. She was tone deaf. I don't remember the term. Oh, I see you disarmed the devils. Yes, evidently they just dropped and ran. So they located the rifle oak leaf cluster with palm leaves. Of course, he's talking about an emblem. He's talking about it for military. Um, God, I'm old. It's been years. Captain, or probably a colonel. Oh, I had a little scratch, but it also depends on what branch of the military you're in. That is. Take that stuff off. This was almost a full load of ammunition, says the professor. Professor, please don't question. Well, I'd still like to know why. So they're wondering why whoever it was dropped the gun. Well, we're dealing with a super mentality, says Mr. Howell, an enemy with an intelligence. And here we get our visitor of the week. Professor Mr. Howell, I shall have to contest your theory.
Yeah, I made a cameo this week.
You made a cameo this week. And this time once again representing Gorilla's family, we have the wonderful, talented character actor Janos Prohaska. And I'm still working on the video that I'll be posting on my channel because I've mentioned it before, but he's the same one that played the Horta from Star Trek. He's the same one that played the Megatu from Star Trek. If you watch anything from the 60s, early 70s, and if you see a monster in a suit or an ape or a gorilla or anything like that, it was usually Janos Prohaska. So I will be having a video talking a little bit about him and his talent. No one knows more about guerrilla warfare than Thurston Howell, says Mr. Howell. That's it, Mr. Howell. Look, says Gilligan. If he moves, it'll frighten me into doing something. I'd run. Hold still, they say. And the gorilla's just hooting. Machine gun will scare him off. I'll scare him off, he says. So they shoot the gun. I don't think I would trust Mr. Howell with the gun. And Gilligan goes racing after the gorilla, and they say, no, Gilligan, you know what happened. No, but you killed a couple coconuts. And now they go searching out looking for the gorilla, thinking that the gorilla must have more weapons. Broken branches were on the right track, they said. And he repeats it to Gilligan. And Gilligan in turn repeats it to the gorilla. Broken branches were on the right track. And when he realizes it's the gorilla, he screams and they all go running, of course. And the gorilla's hooting. And here we are back at one of our favorite caves. Maybe we better come back tomorrow, they say. We've got to get the ammunition away from him. Yeah. The ape was obviously on the island during the war and decided that's the way men play together. Well, he's liable to start playing again.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to get into that cave.
Yeah. Well, technically, that's how we all play with each other, especially nowadays.
Unfortunately, yes. Maybe there's a back door.
And Euler Craig's wondering why he's suddenly hungry for a cream pie.
Yeah, you know what? Dawn Wells, she did publish a book, Mary. It's called Marianne's Cookbook, and I think I'm going to order it. And she did what she did was she published a cookbook, and of course inside that cookbook is coconut cream pie and some of the other recipes that she made from the show. But what she also did was she went around to the other cast members' houses and visited them and asked them, "What's your favorite recipe handed down from your family?" And they all gave her recipes. So there's a lot of recipes in that book that are handed down from the other castaways, the actors who played the castaways. So I think that's very interesting, and I'm going to order that book. Oh, certainly, and a basement and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. Let's see if we can get around to the back. And the gorilla's hooting. And they found a rear entrance to the cave. We'll have to dig it out to try and move the rock, he says. I left it there when I was 4 years old. And now Gilligan's talking about a story from when he was a kid. Did I cry just like a 4-year-old? Start digging. So they start digging, they move the rock. Gilligan goes inside, and they say, Gilligan, can you see him? And he says, no, it's too dark. And there's Gilligan looking for the ammunition. And that's the gorilla just goofing off outside the cave. And Gilligan gets ready to grab the grenades, and the gorilla comes back. And Gilligan escapes. Wait a minute, wait a minute. And the gorilla's back to hooting out front. We didn't see him. Oh, good. Now, are the hand grenades still in there? Yes, we'll have you tie around the boxes. So they're talking about tying something around the boxes and dragging them out. All right, you yank on the vine. Now remember, if he catches you, name, rank, and serial number, any information and any new plans. Oh, Gilligan, why do I listen to him? Or here's Gilligan sneaking back in with the vine. And unfortunately, here comes the gorilla. And the gorilla comes out. Gorilla hooting. Yeah, he was looking at me real good too. Real hungry like. And the professor says that the genera crotalis can actually be stirred into immobility. So he's basically saying you could stare at it and it would hypnotize it. Even if you keep looking at him, that's right. If you don't move, he won't move. Oh, wait a minute, Skipper. We need your strength to carry one of those boxes. I can't budge either one of them, says Gilligan. I really wish there were another way. I once stared at a man-eating tiger. That ape isn't behind any bars, says Skipper. And Gilligan goes out to try to stare it down. And there's a fly buzzing.
Perfect time for a fly.
Of course. And we have the professor and Skipper sneaking behind them to go in and get the ammunition. And Gilligan sneezes. I did it again. I apologize, guys. I don't know if I'm having problems with my keyboard or what, but okay, I'll get us caught up really quick.
Oh, again?
Yes. You know what it is because I'll tell you what it is. It's because it's a VLC player. I'm using VLC player. And if you hit a certain button, I don't know what it is. It's either the V, the B, or the N accidentally. It goes back to the previous video that we were watching, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get in there and turn that feature off because I never use it. There we go. I'll get us caught up faster. There we go. Go a little further here.
Yeah, steering, fly, steering.
And of course, immediately Gilligan starts telling him the general's name and giving up all the goods. And the gorilla carries off Gilligan. Oh, of course, we've got to track down Gilligan and that ape, says the professor. Well, okay, girls. So now they're hunting them down, looking for them. There's an explosion. And Gilligan and the ape are tossing the grenade, what's left of them, into the water.
Yeah. Would have been funny if all those grenades blowing up will caught someone's attention. Oh,
Yeah, you would
passing
think,
ship.
right?
No,
Yeah, you
no, no. But if a ship was passing by and catch someone's attention, I would have laughed.
would have been nice. They would have finally gotten rescued. Well, just as long as all their grenades are gone. Actually, I would have tried to hold on to those grenades. You never know when you can use them. But I guess it is safer if they're not around anymore. And now they take that last red one out of the box, and the gorilla tosses it, and there's a powerful explosion.
Well, they asked, "What's that one?" I don't know.
It looked like a mine. Say, it wasn't a grenade after all.
And stock footage.
Obviously. Otherwise, Hawaii would be gone.
Hawaii or Hollywood?
Hawaii.
Oh, I kind of hope it had been Hollywood.
Me too. So now we have Mr. Howell passing out the awards that outweighed you at least by 600 pounds, and he's giving Gilligan a bravery reward with the Order of the Diamond Cufflink. And there's the gorilla, hooting and clapping. Who invited you to the ceremony, says Mr. Howell. Look, he's reaching for something. Uh-oh, and they all scramble. Oh, when I hit it for a surprise, says Marianne. There was one of her good coconut cream pies. Well, he finally got it over home plate.
And PvP says, I used to have a VLC player and used my mouse. It worked great. Is there a safe place to download VLC players for Windows 10?
Yeah, that's what I'm using. It's a good player, but unfortunately, it's got a lot of it. What I got to do, you can customize it. You can go into the preferences and change the settings. So, for example, like I was saying, whatever I was hitting was right by the space bar. So it's like V, the B, or the N, one of those. So I'm going to go into the settings and deactivate those buttons to where when I hit them, nothing happens. So it's very customizable. And music is composed by the great Gerald Fried, who, as we all know, passed away just this last year.
Yeah.
Who
And
also did some of the best Star Trek music from TOS as well.
and PvP says, that was an angry gorilla, not fun like our gorilla. Well, I was having a bad day, okay? They pissed me off.
Well, plus they already left you on the island all by yourself, so maybe you were just a little upset and you were just trying to get attention, right?
Yeah. We all crave attention by throwing grenades and firing off AKs.
By the way, everybody, I did put a poll in the chat, so please, if you get the opportunity, consider letting us know which episode you liked the best out of the two. And we'll be covering our reviews here. How are we doing on the chat, Gorilla?
You're all caught up.
Perfect, thank you. So, all right, well then, without further ado, let's do this. Gorilla, which episode did you like the most? And tell us about your channel if you'd like.
Well, I'm not sure which one I like better. Like the Robot Man was all right, but it's like Lost in Space did the robot better, and that, and so did Star Trek, and that it was a little weird. It's enjoyable, but then again, the second episode, a lot of fun to watch, but also it takes it out of you how much like they should have done some of those scenes differently, especially with around the grenades and the AK there, because it just kind of takes you out a little bit because it's so unbelievable. I would have done them slightly differently. They will still just been slightly hilarious. So it's a coin toss there. they're on
50-50?
that. Yeah, especially nowadays, they will have had to put a disclaimer on the first one, like, do not try this at home, or this is all for entertainment purposes. Do not grenades and AKs are dangerous stuff. They will have had to put some kind of safety
I
disclaimer on
know
there.
it's
I'm
sad that
glad
I because people are dumb these days. It's sad.
Well, yeah. So, but that's my channel. I'm putting a hiatus on a couple things for the next couple weeks there, at least till the 29th, because we got a lot of work to do with Cub Scouts in the next couple weeks. There, we got a lot of popcorn we got to sell there. So we're gonna
So.
sell. But my kid's doing pretty good. He's number 2 for the pack, number 50 ranked 51 for the state, and 8,700 for nationwide. So he's doing pretty good on his
Yeah,
sale.
very cool. Yes, I agree. He's a good boy.
Yeah. So, but I'll see if I can still do Gilligan's Island on Friday. I'll probably decide tomorrow. But
Gilligan's
otherwise,
Island, or you mean
yeah,
Walton's?
Walton's. There will be
Okay.
there's gonna be no Justified on Wednesdays for a couple weeks, and I'll probably be putting a hold on Babylon 5 also. I might do Babylon 5 this weekend, just depending on what's all going on. So,
Cool. All right, I appreciate that, Gorilla. Thank you. And also, everybody, if you enjoyed what you saw, please consider hitting the like button. And if you haven't subbed to my channel, please consider that as well. I've got a lot of entertaining topics to cover and a lot more in the future. As far as my review for these 2 episodes, I would say probably very close, but I would probably lean over to the second one. I thought it was funny. I liked the interaction with the gorilla and the mystery. And I do have to remind Gorilla now, you said Star Trek did robots better. Star Trek didn't do robots.
yeah, they had Nomad.
Yeah, I guess that's considered a robot, isn't it? Wasn't he more of a probe? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's still pretty much a robot.
They
And,
definitely didn't have a man in a suit, so that was a good thing, I suppose.
oh, there wasn't someone crammed in that thing?
Nope, it was just a guy pushing around a cart.
Oh, okay.
Right, we'll cover that too when we get to that episode. That we're starting. That reminds me, and on Unidentified Bill's channel, we're going to be starting season 3 of Star Trek: The Original Series.
Yeah, which
on
one?
Tuesday.
Is this Spock's brain on Tuesday?
Tuesday, we will be covering Spectre of the Gun.
Oh, Spectre of the Gun. I thought Spock's brain was the first one.
Nope, we're doing production order.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if Spock's brain was first in broadcast order, but Jill's doing them in production order. So the first one which was produced was Spectre of the Gun.
Spectre of the Gun, was that the OK Corral one?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I'm getting better at my names of my episodes there.
There you go. Yeah, it'll all come to you eventually. But yes, I would say yes. I've seen the 2 episodes. I definitely like the second one the best. I enjoyed both because frankly, all episodes of Gilligan's Island, but I like the second one better than the first. I'll put it that way. And I thought it was timeless, and it'll always be funny. Even when you get old and grown up like me, it's still funny, just like when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And like I said, I encourage you guys to watch it on your own, so you get a lot of the jokes that we're not able to cover every one of them because we have to skip through the slides. We miss a lot. So please try to get your hands on Gilligan's Island on whatever streaming service it's on, or try to get DVDs or Blu-rays. It is out on Blu-ray.
It is on Tubi.
Tubi. Thank you, Gorilla. I appreciate that. And
if you have a good ad blocker, you don't have to go sit through the ads.
Or if you just use the Brave browser, Brave, you don't have to worry about blockers. Everything's built in. And also, you won't get commercials on YouTube. It'll just be every video uncut, uninterrupted. And Tuesday, I will be back with another Rumblings from the Lab. I'm sorry, my days are all mixed up. Saturday, I will be back with the Rumblings from the Lab. And then the following Monday of next week, we'll be back with another episode of Lost in Space, the classic series. You'll find me on Tuesday morning, the following morning, on Jill and Jill's channel, where, like I mentioned, we'll be covering the Spectre of the Gun from season 3 of Star Trek: The Original Series. And then we'll be back next Tuesday night with our horror sci-fi stream where we're going to cover the movie Jurassic Park. So please be there if you can, if you're able to. If you're a fan of Jurassic Park or if you have not seen it, I encourage you to join us. I think you'll have a great time. And I'm going to go ahead and share the results from the poll in the chat. Let's see what everybody thought about it. There we go. Okay, I'm going to end poll. All right, and then we'll share with what the chat says. And there we go. All right. So according to the lovely people in the chat who voted for tonight's episode, it looks like we got a total of 8 votes. Which episode did you enjoy the most? And it looks like 87% said Gilligan's Living Doll. And 12% said Forward March. So how do you like that? So it looks like overwhelmingly most of them enjoyed the robot episode with Gilligan's Living Doll, which is fantastic. I like that. I like the fact when people have different opinions. That's wonderful. So thank you for voting, everybody. I really do appreciate that. And above all, I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat for coming tonight and spending time with us. It really means a lot to me. And like I said, we will be getting back into the swing of things where hopefully every week we can cover Gilligan's Island if it works out, and the horror stream and Lost of Space. I'm going to do my best not to be too ill. Maybe if I am ill, maybe I can get some help from other people helping me read the chats. And because usually when I get ill, it really knocks me out as far as energy. And I'm really, really exhausted, tired, hard to stay awake. And it's very difficult to talk. So if worse comes to worse, maybe if I can get people up on the panel to help me talk about some of these things and chat, maybe we can continue it, regardless of how crappy I feel. And I want to say, most of all, thank you to my good friend and fellow panelist, Gorillas Random Thoughts. Thank you for helping me out tonight, and especially for helping me with the chats.
Yeah, no problem.
And as I've said before, I hope I covered everybody's chats tonight, or I hope we have covered everybody's chats. If I ever happen to miss your chats or skip over them, it's not intentional. It's just there's so many that we try to cover. But if you skip over your chats and we miss them, let us know. Holler, give us a shout out, and I'll make sure I bring it up and give you attention that you deserve. Because if you're going to come here and come to my channel and spend time with me, then I'm going to make sure to give as much an equal attention to you. Especially if you have your own channel, then let's help promote each other. That's what I always say. That's the best way to do it. I think it's very fair. And I know a lot of you guys have to work tomorrow. I know Gorilla, I can tell you're already tired. You had a long day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And especially thank you for helping me out tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
And drive safe, everybody, tomorrow. And I hope wherever you're at, it's nothing but nice weather, and you don't have to worry about hopefully bad traffic or rush hours or any of that kind of stuff. All right. So with that, have a great night, everybody in the chat. Have a great night, Gorilla. And I will see you guys Saturday for Rumblings from the Lab, where it will be an open topic, open mic. So take care.